Imagine a world where the breath you take isn't confined to the limits of your lungs but flows freely through the vacuum of space itself, transforming what we know about life beyond Earth. The idea of humans breathing in space might sound like science fiction, but what if our biology could adapt? Are lungs evolving to extract oxygen directly from the void? The thought sparks a rush of wonder mixed with questions about survival, ethics, and evolution. Could we engineer new forms of life, beings resilient enough to thrive in the stars? And at what cost do we push the boundaries of human capability? Dive into this exploration where science meets imagination as we unravel what it might really take for humanity to breathe among the cosmos. The foundation of human space breathing. The idea of humans breathing directly in space hinges on a complex interplay of biology, technology, and the potential for evolutionary adaptation. Currently, human survival beyond Earth's atmosphere relies heavily on life support systems, pressurized habitats filled with a controlled mixture of oxygen, nitrogen, and compressed air. For humans to breathe unassisted in space, our respiratory systems would need to undergo significant modifications, or we would have to develop biologically integrated solutions to replicate the Earth's atmosphere internally within our bodies. The core challenge lies in ensuring that oxygen intake is sustainable and waste gases like carbon dioxide are efficiently expelled without causing toxicity or suffocation. Biologically, the human body is finely tuned to Earth's gravity, atmosphere, and pressure. To survive without external life support, natural adaptation might be necessary. For instance, some speculative theories suggest that future humans could develop enhanced lung structures capable of extracting oxygen more efficiently from trace atmospheres or even directly absorbing oxygen from space dust or other cosmic sources. Alternatively, biological modifications could include changes to hemoglobin or cellular respiration pathways to operate optimally under lower atmospheric pressure or even in a vacuum, though these are deeply experimental and far from current scientific feasibility. Such adaptations could theoretically improve oxygen uptake, reduce the need for bulky life support systems, and allow humans to wander in space without mechanical aid. Sensory feedback from breathing is intimately tied to our biological experience. The rise of oxygen levels, the feel of air passing through nasal passages, and the rhythm of inhalation and exhalation all contribute to our perception of life. In a space where humans can breathe naturally, these sensations would profoundly influence our understanding of space as a habitat. Imagine the crisp, cool sensation of oxygen filling your lungs, or the sharpness of clean, pure air on an alien world. But beyond sensation, the immune and respiratory systems would face a new world of challenges. Viruses and bacteria could evolve differently in microgravity, and the absence of Earth's protective atmosphere might mean our bodies would need immune systems fine-tuned to cosmic conditions. The ethical implications of enabling humans to breathe unassisted in space extend into questions of biological intervention and responsibility. Would we modify ourselves or future generations to accommodate extraterrestrial environments, and at what cost? Could such changes inadvertently reduce our resilience, making humans overly dependent on internal adaptations that might backfire in unpredictable ways? As scientists explore these possibilities, considerations of consent, safety, and long-term impacts become paramount. Creating a future where humans can breathe freely in space might be a marvel of biological engineering, but it also raises profound questions about the boundaries of human evolution and our role in shaping our own biology for journeys beyond our home planet. Advancements in biosynthetic respiratory systems. Humans rely on a complex network of biological processes to sustain life, notably the respiratory system that extracts oxygen from the environment and expels carbon dioxide. In the vacuum of space, this natural system is useless without protective gear or life support systems. But imagine a future where biosynthetic respiratory systems, artificial yet biologically integrated, are capable of adapting and functioning seamlessly beyond our planet's atmosphere. Recent scientific strides in synthetic biology and bioengineering have opened pathways for developing such systems that could eventually mimic or even enhance natural respiration. These biosynthetic systems would depend on engineered cells capable of recognizing the unique composition of extraterrestrial environments. Instead of traditional filters or tanks, living or semi-living tissues, designed with specific molecular sensors, could dynamically respond to environmental toxins or low oxygen levels. For example, tailored biofilms might be cultivated to produce oxygen as a byproduct of metabolizing space dust or residual chemicals on moons and asteroids, creating a self-sustaining respiratory network. The sensory cells embedded within these bioconstructs could also detect minute fluctuations in atmospheric composition, adjusting their output accordingly. Such systems blur the line between biology and machinery, providing a level of adaptability that mechanical systems can't match. The biological adaptation of these respiratory systems raises fascinating ethical questions about using living tissues as components of human life support. Would these biosynthetic cells be considered a form of synthetic life? Could they evolve over time, possibly gaining autonomy or unintended functionalities? The potential for bioengineering to create sustainable, modular respiratory systems offers immense promise, but also demands rigorous oversight. Balancing innovation with morality will be essential. As these systems become more sophisticated, the line between biological and artificial could be profoundly reshaped, altering perceptions of what it means to be human in space. From a practical perspective, integrating biosynthetic respiratory systems into future spacesuits or habitats could revolutionize exploration and colonization. Instead of relying solely on bulky tanks or automated scrubbers, explorers might wear suits embedded with living respiratory tissues that grow and repair themselves. These systems could efficiently recycle gases, minimize waste, and adapt to different planetary atmospheres. The sensory feedback from such biological systems could even enhance the wearer's awareness, allowing them to sense subtle changes in their environment, like a biological warning a toxic gas is rising or oxygen levels are dipping. Ultimately, the development of these advanced bioengineered lungs or respiratory networks could break down the barriers that currently limit human presence in space, making the cosmos more accessible while raising profound questions about the future of human biology and ethics. Artificial gills, a breakthrough in space adaptation. Artificial gills stand as one of the most fascinating prospects in the pursuit of adapting humans to the harsh environment of space. Unlike traditional life support systems that rely on oxygen tanks or filters, these bioengineered devices aim to mimic the natural process of aquatic respiration. Essentially, they would tap into the concept of extracting dissolved gases directly from a fluid medium, be it water or a specially formulated plasma, allowing humans to breathe in an environment that lacks breathable air. This technology is inspired by the respiratory systems of aquatic creatures like fish, which efficiently absorb oxygen through their gills, converting it into energy necessary for survival. The challenge lies in replicating this biological marvel within the human body, seamlessly integrating it with existing systems to allow continuous, effortless respiration in space. The engineering behind artificial gills involves advanced nanomaterials capable of filtering gases at an extremely fine level. These materials could be embedded within a biocompatible interface, creating a highly efficient membrane that extracts oxygen directly from liquids or low-oxygen atmospheres. Imagine feeling the gentle flow of a liquid over your skin, with oxygen molecules diffusing through microscopic pores into your bloodstream as naturally as breathing air. Such a system would significantly reduce the bulk and weight of traditional life support apparatus, rendering space suits less cumbersome and more adaptable for long-term missions. The sensory experience would be transformative, drastically different from breathing through a mask. It could feel more like a whisper of invisible currents weaving through your body. From a biological perspective, adapting humans to utilize artificial gills would require significant genetic or biomedical intervention. Researchers envision not just external devices, but potentially internal modifications that enable seamless gas exchange, possibly involving gene editing to enhance cellular affinity for oxygen absorption from liquids. The ethical considerations are complex, raising questions about how far we should go in altering our natural form for space survival. Would it be acceptable to modify human DNA to accommodate such systems, or should artificial gills remain tethered to external devices? The potential benefits, however, are immense. Imagine astronauts enduring longer journeys with fewer logistical constraints, or colonists in water-covered worlds breathing in lakes or oceans without bulky equipment. In an era where space exploration pushes the boundaries of human capability, artificial gills could redefine what it means to survive beyond Earth. They blur the line between biology and technology, inviting us to reconsider our notion of life itself. While many hurdles remain, biocompatibility, durability, and ethical limits, the possibility of integrated respiratory gills emphasizes an exciting trajectory. It encapsulates a future where humans might transcend the environmental constraints of space while staying rooted in biological adaptability, a blend of wonder and pragmatic innovation poised to open new horizons for exploration and survival. Genetic engineering for space resilience. In the vast silence of space, the human body would need extraordinary adaptations to thrive beyond Earth's protective atmosphere. Genetic engineering offers a tantalizing solution by modifying human DNA to bolster resilience to microgravity, radiation, and limited oxygen supply. Imagine editing genes responsible for cellular repair and stress response, allowing tissues to repair themselves more efficiently after exposure to high levels of cosmic radiation, a constant threat to unprotected DNA. Such modifications could enhance the body's ability to withstand radiation damage that would otherwise accelerate aging or cause mutations. On a biological level, scientists could target genes involved in oxygen transport and utilization. For example, tweaking hemoglobin production or increasing mitochondrial efficiency would enable cells to extract more energy from limited oxygen resources. This might mean designing humans capable of surviving on lower oxygen concentrations, akin to high-altitude dwellers, but in an environment where oxygen isn't readily available. Furthermore, alterations to skin or limb structure could improve radiation shielding naturally, perhaps by introducing thicker, more layered tissue or even biomineralized features that act as a shield against harmful rays, all coded genetically into the human body. However, with such profound capabilities come significant ethical questions. The idea of altering human genetics to adapt for space raises concerns about unintended consequences, off-target mutations, unforeseen health issues, or loss of genetic diversity. These interventions could potentially be passed down, creating new subspecies or altering our evolutionary trajectory in unpredictable ways. The moral implications of choosing which enhancements to prioritize, who gets access, and the potential social divides it might create are questions that demand careful societal reflection. Even as the science edges forward, the urgency to establish ethical frameworks remains just as pressing as the technological possibilities. Physiologically, the benefits might be striking. Humans engineered to handle the vacuum's harsh conditions could experience fewer health issues related to space travel, lesser bone density loss, and reduced muscle atrophy. The sensory experience might also change. Eyes designed to filter more ultraviolet radiation or skin capable of withstanding temperature extremes without damage. This future could, in essence, transform what it means to be human, an adaptable, resilient species capable of exploring the cosmos without the bounds of our fragile biological origins. Still, it's a future wrapped in both the promise of discovery and cautionary complexity. Integration of space breathing with space suits. Incorporating the ability to breathe in space directly into suits would revolutionize how astronauts move and operate beyond Earth's atmosphere. Instead of relying solely on airtight chambers or cumbersome life support systems, a suit engineered with organic or biologically integrated breathing capabilities could mimic terrestrial respiration more naturally. Imagine a fabric embedded with tiny bioelectronic sensors and microorganisms that respond to the wearer's metabolic needs. These biological components could convert ambient gases into oxygen and remove carbon dioxide in real time, mimicking the lungs' function but within a protective suit that allows for greater freedom of movement and sensory comfort. Such systems might even adjust dynamically to physical exertion, maintaining optimal oxygen levels and reducing fatigue, a real boon during complex extravehicular activities. Biological adaptation within the suit would bring significant benefits, but also raises questions about durability and long-term sustainability. If we think of a hybrid system combining biological elements and advanced materials, perhaps flexible, biocompatible membranes, these could be designed to repair themselves when damaged and operate efficiently under extreme temperature fluctuations and radiation exposure. An integrated biological respiration system could provide a continuous, reliable supply of breathable air without the bulk of traditional tanks or filters, drastically reducing the weight and complexity of current life support hardware. In this scenario, astronauts might have fewer bulky devices strapped to their bodies, freeing them to focus on delicate tasks or exploration. This could even foster a more intuitive sense of being at one with space, as the suit would feel less like a foreign contraption and more like an extension of their biological self. Beyond the technical and practical implications, integrating space breathing into suits raises ethical and philosophical questions. Would biologically integrated systems involve modifying human biology for the sake of exploration? Could they be designed to be reversible, or would they forever change human physiology in a way that impacts identity? These considerations aren't purely hypothetical. They challenge our notions of safety, agency, and the essence of being human in an environment as alien as space. Moreover, considering long-term space habitation, such technology might be pivotal, but it also entrusts our survival to synthetic or semi-biological systems that must be thoroughly tested and perfected. The wonder of breathing naturally in space is intoxicating, yet it also presents a complex web of innovation, risk, and ethical responsibility that scientists and explorers alike will have to navigate carefully. The fusion of biological breathing systems with space suits might also open pathways for future developments in human evolution and adaptation. Some futurists envision a scenario where humanity evolves in tandem with these technological symbioses, developing new senses or resilience born out of these engineered environments. Others debate whether such advancements could lead to disparities or ethical dilemmas related to access and safety. Still, the core allure remains: humans in space, capable of drawing air and exhaust naturally, with a sense of ease and organic harmony that echoes our terrestrial origins. Achieving this level of integration ultimately pushes the boundaries of craftsmanship, biology, and imagination, turning science fiction into tangible scientific innovation. Implications for space travel duration and range. Breathing in space has traditionally been one of the fundamental barriers to long-term human exploration beyond Earth's atmosphere. Without a reliable supply of oxygen, trips are limited by life support systems and resupply missions. If humans could breathe in space naturally, the constraints on spacecraft design would shift dramatically. Instead of bulky, heavily insulated habitats with sophisticated filtration and recycling systems, spacecraft could focus more on energy efficiency, storage, and propulsion. The ability to breathe unassisted would effectively reduce the mass and complexity of life support machinery, extending mission durations since less logistical support would be needed for air supplies. This newfound biological advantage could exponentially expand the range of missions. Instead of relying on constant resupply, interplanetary journeys might be longer and more ambitious. For example, a crew venturing toward Mars could potentially have extended windows of activity outside the spacecraft, exploring surface environs or setting up long-term bases without the immediate concern of replenishing oxygen tanks. The natural oxygen intake would also make deep space travel more feasible, as oxygen resupply considerations, which are both weight-intensive and vulnerable to delays, would diminish. The crew's physiological needs would no longer be a limiting factor, paving the way for missions to asteroids, the outer planets, or even interstellar precursors. However, this scenario raises complex biological and ethical questions. If humans could adapt biologically to breathe space atmospheres, would we need to engineer or select for these traits? Would it be ethical to create genetically modified humans capable of such feats? The potential to unlock new human capabilities might seem tantalizing, but it also complicates what it means to be human. Would these beings be fundamentally different from our current selves? Additionally, the longer-term implications of living in space without specialized life support systems could alter our evolutionary trajectory, potentially even leading to new forms of dependence or vulnerability. The possibility of breathing in space might revolutionize space exploration, but only if society is prepared to grapple with the profound ethical and biological shifts involved. In practical terms, allowing humans to breathe space without external aid might also influence international treaties and the regulatory landscape. Space agencies, private companies, and governments would need to decide on protocols for biological modifications, bioethics, and planetary protection. If humans could withstand natural atmospheres in space, colonization efforts on other planets might no longer be hampered by logistical limits, making long-term settlements more viable and less resource-dependent. Conversely, the potential for unforeseen biological risks, such as exposure to cosmic radiation or microbial contamination, would demand rigorous oversight. All of these layers, biological, technical, ethical, intertwine, suggesting that a new era of exploration would usher in both unprecedented opportunity and significant responsibility. Transforming space habitats into breather-free zones. Transforming space habitats into breather-free zones hinges on a radical shift in how humans interact with their environment beyond Earth. Traditionally, life support systems rely on continuous air recycling, carbon dioxide scrubbing, oxygen replenishment, and filtration, necessitating bulky machinery, power consumption, and maintenance. If humans could breathe freely in space, this paradigm would shift dramatically, effectively turning habitats into sealed sanctuaries where the need for constant air exchange diminishes. The notion suggests creating environments where breathing becomes an innate, effortless act, much like it is on Earth. That idea involves bioengineering humans or their environment at a molecular level, perhaps developing biological or genetic modifications that allow individuals to extract oxygen directly from their surroundings or even metabolize toxins and waste gases in a way that neutralizes the need for elaborate filtration systems. Imagine spacecraft or lunar bases where the atmosphere remains stable and self-maintaining without mechanical intervention. It would require humans to evolve unique lung structures or cellular processes capable of breaking down CO2 more efficiently, or perhaps even a symbiotic relationship with microorganisms designed to process waste gases biologically. Such adaptations could potentially make space stations as breather-free as Earth's atmosphere is for us. The sensory experience of breathing would shift, no more the metallic tang of recycled air or the faint hum of filtration systems, replaced by a sensation more akin to Earth's fresh breezes. A feeling of liberation from environmental controls would infuse life in space with a new sense of vibrancy. Ethically, this raises profound questions. Engineering humans to breathe without artificial assistance could challenge notions of natural evolution versus technological enhancement. Would all humans need to be altered, or could this capacity be optional? Could it foster inequalities among spacefaring populations, with some having biologically adapted bodies and others relying on conventional technology? Moreover, long-term biological changes might carry unforeseen consequences, such as impacts on human immunity, sensory perception, or even the capacity to coexist with terrestrial ecosystems if future colonies aim for ecological integration. From a practical angle, transforming habitats into breathers' utopias would likely initiate a focus on biosustainability and resilience. Habitats might rely less on bulky life support modules and more on biological architectures, living walls, bioreactors, and genetically engineered flora that dynamically balance atmospheric composition. These spaces could become lush, green retreats, mini ecosystems that are self-maintaining and biologically integrated with human physiology. The lines blur between environment and inhabitant, creating a symbiosis where life support becomes organic rather than mechanical. Creating a breathable space that requires no external air supplies could revolutionize space exploration, making long-term habitation more feasible and reducing dependencies on Earth-originated resources. The impact on spacewalks and extravehicular activities. If humans could breathe in space, the very foundation of extravehicular activities, EVAs, would transform into something remarkably more seamless and dynamic. Without the need for bulky pressurized suits and oxygen tanks, astronauts could perform repairs, scientific experiments, and inspections with a grace comparable to terrestrial activities. Imagine moving swiftly along the surface of the International Space Station, stopping momentarily to examine a panel or collect a sample, breathing naturally as if strolling through a park rather than encased in a rigid suit. The tactile and sensory experience would shift dramatically, allowing for more intuitive and responsive interactions with their environment. This would also open up possibilities for more complex manipulations, where fine motor skills are less hindered by cumbersome gloves and equipment. The sense of vulnerability often associated with spacewalks would diminish significantly, but this raises fascinating biological questions. How would such an adaptation impact the body's regulation of gases? If humans could breathe in space, their lungs and cardiovascular systems might evolve or be specially engineered to handle the microgravity environment more efficiently, potentially avoiding issues like decompression sickness. Such biological modifications would need to maintain the delicate balance of gases within tissues, prevent embolisms, and optimize oxygen absorption while ensuring that other gases like carbon dioxide are expelled efficiently. This new breathing capability could reduce the psychological stress of EVAs, making them feel more natural and less tense. No more thrusters of anxiety about suits malfunctioning or oxygen running out. From a practical standpoint, the reduction of bulky gear would make spacewalks considerably safer and less physically exhausting. Current suits can weigh over 300 pounds on Earth, and even in microgravity, they require careful maneuvering. With the ability to breathe freely, astronauts could perform longer and more complex tasks without the fatigue or restriction imposed by suits. The design of suits themselves might shift from life support systems to more streamlined, protective gear, focus largely on shielding against micrometeoroids, radiation, and temperature extremes, rather than oxygen supply. Spacewalks could be scheduled more fluidly, with fewer concerns about oxygen levels, and possibly open up to a broader range of personnel, including scientists and engineers with less specialized suit training. Yet, this capability could also pose unforeseen risks and ethical dilemmas. Human physiology is finely tuned to terrestrial conditions, and adapting to breathe in space might have unintended consequences. Long-term exposure to the space environment, even with effective breathing, could influence neurological functions, immune responses, or other vital processes. Deploying such advanced biological modifications would spark debates about safety, consent, and the long-term well-being of astronauts. Would it be ethical to alter human biology so profoundly for exploration, especially when we are still learning about the full implications? Exploring these questions would be as vital as the technological innovations themselves, intertwining scientific progress with considerations of morality and responsibility. New human societies in space ecosystems. If humans developed the ability to breathe freely in space, the fabric of society itself would undergo profound transformation. Without the constant reliance on terrestrial environments, communities could spread beyond Earth, forming floating colonies or expansive habitats that resemble terrestrial ecosystems. These new societal constructs might prioritize collective survival in radically different ways, focusing less on traditional resource management and more on biological harmony. Imagine entire ecosystems designed for human habitation, where flora and fauna are genetically engineered to support human life directly, reducing the need for complex supply chains from Earth. These ecosystems would foster societies where humans are not merely biology adapted for space, but integrated into a delicate web of living systems that sustain them. In such environments, biological adaptations could be seamless and even highly individualized. For example, gene editing might allow humans to develop traits that maximize oxygen absorption, maximize resistance to radiation, or thrive in low-gravity conditions. Societies would likely evolve with shared genetic modifications that enhance communal resilience rather than individual perfection. People could develop heightened sensory perceptions suited to their unique habitats. Darker environments might generate humans with better night vision, while high radiation zones could birth populations with natural radiation resistance. These adaptations would also influence social dynamics, fostering cultures centered around the stewardship of their specific ecosystems, where every individual's biology is intertwined with the habitat they inhabit. Ethical questions emerge quickly when considering such developments. If humans are to evolve biologically to fit space ecosystems, who makes the decisions about genetic modifications, and environmental shaping. Would these changes be universally accessible, or would they create new lines of inequality? The potential for creating biologically customized societies raises concerns over genetic diversity and ecological stability. Power dynamics could shift toward those with access to advanced biotech, deepening disparities or fostering new forms of community governance based on biological compatibility. Conversely, some might view these transformations as a natural extension of human curiosity and resilience, a way to ensure survival in a universe that is far more unpredictable and hostile than Earth. This new way of living would redefine community itself, moving beyond geographic proximity to biological and ecological interconnectedness. Entire societies could develop around shared ecological principles, such as maintaining the health of engineered biospheres or cultivating symbiotic relationships with introduced flora and fauna. Interpersonal relationships, social roles, and governance could revolve around the stewardship of these ecosystems, fostering a sense of collective responsibility. With humans integrated into living systems that adapt and evolve alongside their environments, societal bonds might deepen, rooted in cooperation and mutual dependence rather than tradition or physical proximity. The result would be a tapestry of diverse societies, each uniquely tailored to their ecological niche, an ongoing experiment in assigning human culture, ethics, and biology to the endless possibilities of space. Alterations in human physiology and health. If humans gain the ability to breathe in space naturally, the evolution of human physiology would likely follow a radically different trajectory, involving profound adaptations at multiple levels. The most immediate change would be in the respiratory system itself. Without the need for bulky spacesuits or life support systems, our lungs and associated muscles might develop a heightened efficiency for extracting and processing oxygen directly from a vastly different environment, perhaps even through the vacuum of space or an atmosphere designed by human engineers. Over countless generations, this could lead to more porous or highly specialized alveoli, capable of capturing trace gases or even functioning in environments with minimal oxygen presence. On the cellular level, mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell, would probably shift in their functioning. The black and white simplicity of aerobic respiration would give way to a more complex, resilient process tailored to space's unique conditions. For instance, mitochondria might evolve pathways to more efficiently handle oxidative stress, given the increased radiation exposure in space. Body tissues might adapt their blood supply and capillary networks to optimize oxygen delivery, reducing the need for large blood volumes and thus altering cardiovascular health. Blood itself could become more efficient at transporting oxygen, possibly containing specialized proteins or molecules that bind oxygen more effectively at lower partial pressures. Long-term health consequences of such an adaptation would be multi-layered. Exposure to microgravity famously causes muscle atrophy and bone density loss. Altering respiratory physiology might mitigate these issues, but could introduce new vulnerabilities. For instance, if lungs become more efficient at breathing in a vacuum or in low-pressure environments, they might become more sensitive to fluctuations in atmospheric conditions, making humans more fragile in environments outside their engineered habitats. Immune responses might also evolve, perhaps becoming more sensitive to airborne pathogens or radiation, leading to a different balance of immune tolerance and activation. Maintaining this delicate balance would be crucial, as an overreactive immune system could cause autoimmune issues, while underreactivity would leave individuals vulnerable to infections typical of space environments. Ethics and societal implications also intertwine deeply with potential physiological shifts. If breathing became an innate human trait, it could accelerate societal divides, favoring those with genetic or engineered modifications that optimize this ability. The very idea raises questions about natural human boundaries and the ethics of genetic editing aimed at space adaptation. Would such changes be universally accessible, or would they create new forms of inequality? The potential for unintended consequences, such as susceptibility to certain diseases or alterations in emotional and cognitive processing linked to oxygen levels or metabolic pathways, could complicate this brave new biological landscape. In the end, The prospect of humans breathing space naturally presents a fascinating blend of biological wonder and complex ethical considerations, reshaping not just our bodies, but the very fabric of human society. Potential for space farming and resource utilization. If humans could breathe in space, the horizon of what is possible for extraterrestrial resource utilization would shift dramatically. No longer confined by the necessity of Earth-based life support systems, colonists could directly harness local environments for sustained food production and resource extraction. Imagine sprawling biodomes or underground farms on the Moon or Mars, where plants thrive in a carefully balanced atmosphere tailored to human needs, reducing reliance on Earth supplies. These environments could operate more like Earth's ecosystems, but on a much smaller, controlled scale, using hydroponics, aeroponics, and genetically optimized crops. The sensory experience of walking into such spaces, an air thick with the scent of growing greens, leaves brushing against suits, would symbolize a new relationship with off-world living. Beneath the surface of these habitats, the biological adaptation of crops and microorganisms could be fine-tuned to thrive in low-gravity and high-radiation conditions, creating a resilient system for space farming. Researchers already explore the use of algae and bacteria to recycle waste and produce essential nutrients, turning what would be waste into food and oxygen. If humans developed the ability to breathe in space, it would open pathways for continuous cultivation of these microorganisms outside traditional plant systems, leading to more efficient resource loops. This would not only make space farming more feasible, but also reduce the logistical burdens of importing supplies from Earth. Sustainable resource extraction, such as mining water from lunar ice or extracting rare minerals directly from asteroids, could be integrated into these ecosystems, feeding both human and plant life cycles. The ethical implications of utilizing extraterrestrial environments become more complex with such advancements. As humans exert more influence over off-world biospheres, questions surface about planetary protection and contamination, both of other celestial bodies and the fragile ecosystems we introduce. If we're able to breathe and grow food on Mars or beyond, controlling ecological impact must be balanced with the drive for exploration and resource use. We might find ourselves faced with moral dilemmas about resource sovereignty, the preservation of untouched extraterrestrial environments, and whether space should be a shared resource or exploited for economic gain. The idea of breeding crops or microorganisms adapted specifically for space scenarios also raises concerns about biosecurity and the unintended consequences of releasing engineered life into alien ecosystems. Ultimately, if space becomes a new frontier for human respiration and agriculture, the nature of human expansion itself would shift, no longer a quest solely for new worlds, but an ongoing act of biological integration. The potential for sustainable space farming combined with in-situ resource utilization could revolutionize our approach to colonization, transforming barren moons and planets into ecosystems capable of supporting human life long-term. This vision marries hope with realism, harnessing space's resources while wrestling with the ethical shadows cast by our own ingenuity. The sensory tapestry of space, its silence, the strange feel of gravity, the sight of lush greenery in alien soil, would embody a new chapter of human adaptability, ingenuity, and perhaps responsibility. Ethical and psychological dimensions of space breathing. When considering humans with the ability to breathe in space, the ethical implications stretch far beyond mere biological adaptation. If biological engineering allowed people to survive unprotected outside Earth's atmosphere, it would raise questions about human identity and the concept of natural life. Altering human physiology in such a fundamental way could spark debates about what it means to be truly human. Would we be maintaining our essence, or transforming into something entirely new? Some might argue that extending the ability to breathe in space could lead to a new era of exploration and discovery, breaking down barriers that once confined humanity to Earth. Others might see it as tampering with an essential aspect of human nature, risking unforeseen consequences on our collective sense of self and community. Psychologically, the ability to breathe in space could dramatically reshape individuals' mental landscapes. For example, the sense of vulnerability that comes with dependence on Earth's atmosphere might diminish, fostering a new kind of confidence or even hubris. Conversely, the isolation inherent in venturing into space, where the familiar sensory cues of air, gravity, and terrestrial environment are absent, could exacerbate feelings of alienation or disconnection. Imagine the visceral contrast. Breathing in a vacuum might evoke sensations of weightless euphoria or profound dread, depending on the mental preparedness of the individual. The psychological burden of living in a constant state of biological exception could lead to new forms of existential anxiety as humans grapple with the implications of their malleable bodies and shifting perceptions of reality. From an ethical standpoint, if scientists develop the means for humans to breathe naturally in space through genetic modifications or neural interfaces, questions about consent and equity inevitably arise. Would such advancements be accessible to all, or reserved for the wealthy and powerful? The notion of creating a space-breathing class of humans might deepen social divides, fostering inequality based on who has access to these long-term adaptations. There would also be concerns about the potential impact on mental health long-term, especially if such modifications alter brain chemistry or cognitive function. Would people lose touch with their prior human limitations, or would they gain new types of psychological strains? These questions demand deep reflection, as they touch on the very nature of freedom, autonomy, and societal responsibility in shaping human evolution. Ultimately, the prospect of breathing in space opens a Pandora's box of moral debates and emotional challenges. On one hand, it offers boundless opportunities for adventure and the expansion of human horizons. On the other, it asks whether humanity is prepared to face the psychological costs and ethical dilemmas of such radical change. As science edges closer to making space breathing a reality, it's vital to weigh not just the technological feasibility, but the profound human consequences that come with reshaping our most fundamental biological trait: interplanetary colonization and human expansion. If humans could breathe in space, the concept of interplanetary colonization would shift from a distant, technical aspiration into an immediate reality. Imagine venturing beyond Earth's atmosphere, without cumbersome spacesuits or life support systems, feeling the crisp, thin air of another world brushing against your lungs. If only, of course, that air was artificially produced or biologically adapted to suit human needs. This ability would drastically reduce logistical challenges and safety concerns associated with space travel. Colonizers could breathe, explore, and work extensively on planets like Mars or moons such as Europa, with fewer barriers to survival. Instead of relying solely on sealed habitats, humans could develop bioengineered ecosystems integrated directly into their biology, enabling a more seamless presence on alien worlds. From a biological perspective, allowing humans to breathe unassisted in space would demand profound evolutionary or genetic modification. The atmosphere of Mars is primarily carbon dioxide, about 95.3%, with trace amounts of oxygen. For humans to thrive there naturally, our physiology would need to undergo significant adaptation. One avenue might involve augmenting our lungs to process carbon dioxide efficiently, or even developing a symbiotic relationship with microorganisms capable of converting CO2 into breathable oxygen inside our bodies. Alternatively, genetic tinkering might enable us to survive in environments with radically different atmospheres by adjusting hemoglobin's affinity for oxygen or altering our respiratory membranes. These changes would entail extensive ethical debates about the limits of human engineering, but could result in a new kind of biologically versatile human, capable of expanding our footprint across the solar system. Interplanetary expansion driven by breathing capabilities also raises complex concerns. If humans could live and breathe without advanced breathing apparatus, the temptation to settle on worlds without fully understanding their ecosystems and potential hazards might be irresistible. It necessitates a reevaluation of our approach to planetary stewardship and the preservation of extraterrestrial environments. Would human adaptation to alien atmospheres inadvertently risk introducing Earth-based pathogens or ecological imbalances? Conversely, such biological plasticity might enable humans to intentionally terraform worlds, making them more hospitable over generations. This leads to ethical questions about our right to alter other planets, and whether such actions could jeopardize indigenous life forms, or whether human biological expansion should be restrained to prevent ecological colonialism. Ultimately, enabling humans to breathe naturally in space would dramatically accelerate our reach and influence across the solar system. It's a future in which human curiosity and resilience could drive us to inhabit environments once considered inhospitable. Still, these advancements prompt us to confront profound questions about the relationship between biology and morality, the boundaries of human modification, and the responsibilities that come with wielding such transformative capabilities. Exploring those frontiers, both biological and ethical, might turn human space expansion into one of the most remarkable chapters of our evolution. The future of humanity, a breathe-empowered race. If humans could breathe directly in the vacuum of space, it would redefine our relationship with the cosmos entirely. Picture the sensation of inhaling a crisp, alien air, free from the mechanical confines of spacesuits and tanks. The biological implications are staggering. Our lungs, evolved to process oxygen within Earth's atmosphere, would need to adapt to a different reality, one where the very act of breathing is no longer confined to controlled environments, but becomes an instinctual response to the limitless void. This shift could trigger an evolution of respiratory tissues, possibly developing or expanding specialized cell structures capable of harnessing gaseous elements directly from the environment, much like some extremophile microorganisms do in harsh earthly conditions. Such an ability would not only elevate human autonomy in space, no longer tethered strictly to life support systems, but would also inspire a leap in sensory perception. Imagine the altered sensation of air rushing into the lungs, a tangible connection to space itself. This could lead to acute sensitivity to changes in atmospheric composition or even subtle shifts in cosmic particles that interact with the body's newly adaptive cells. On a practical level, human habitats would transform into open-air colonies, reducing logistical hurdles for space travel and colonization. Instead of weapons of self-preservation like airtight suits or delicate life support modules, future explorers might simply don lightweight garments, more akin to clothing than armor, as their bodies become inherently suited to the cosmos's thin, possibly reactive atmosphere. Beyond practical considerations, this hypothetical evolution raises profound ethical questions. What responsibilities would humanity carry if our biology fundamentally changed? Would creating such adaptable humans be an act of technological hubris, risking unforeseen consequences to life itself? Natural selection might favor those who develop enhanced gas exchange abilities, potentially creating a divide between those who are biologically suited for space and those who are not. It could lead to a new form of biological stratification, where the line between the natural and the artificial blurs, prompting society to reconsider notions of identity, purity, and the essence of being human. At the core of this future, the race would transform, not just physically but culturally, as we become a species empowered by a breath that spans worlds and redefines the limits of human endurance. This evolution might also shift humanity's philosophical stance towards existence itself. Breathing in space could symbolize not merely survival but mastery over physical boundaries. It embodies the dream of omnipresence, of seamlessly integrating with the universe. Such change could inspire entire new mythologies and spiritual paradigms centered around a biological connection to the cosmos, where respiration extends beyond mere life processes into an act of cosmic communion. As biological boundaries dissolve, whether through genetic engineering or natural adaptation, the breathe-empowered human race would stand at the frontier of evolution, a species capable of perceiving and thriving in the universe's vast, silent breath. If humans could breathe in space naturally, the boundaries of biology and technology would blur in astonishing ways. Our respiratory systems, finely tuned to Earth's atmosphere, would need to adapt profoundly. Instead of relying on bulky space suits or pressurized habitats, individuals might develop biological modifications that allow the lungs, or some new form of respiratory organ, to directly extract oxygen from the vacuum of space. This could mean a restructuring of alveoli or a revolutionary form of cellular respiration capable of using trace gases present just outside Earth's atmosphere. Imagine a biological filter, integrated into the skin or embedded deep within tissues, capable of sifting through solar wind particles or cosmic dust for vital elements, translating the raw environment into life-sustaining oxygen. The sensation of breathing itself would transform into something quite surreal. Without the typical pressure-driven flow of air, the act might resemble a kind of gentle absorption or a steady diffusion across specialized tissues. The airless environment would no longer be a hazard, but a source of nourishment, altering the way we perceive breath. Our biological systems would need to handle not only oxygen uptake, but also the mitigation of dangers like radiation and micrometeoroid impacts, perhaps through enhanced cellular repair mechanisms or protective biofilms. Sensory receptors might also evolve, allowing humans to sense the subtle variations in cosmic gases, solar radiation, and magnetic fields, turning the very act of perceiving space into an immersive experience. Ethically, this scenario raises questions about human agency and intervention. Would such adaptations occur naturally, or would we engineer ourselves to survive space without constraints? If we could, would it change our sense of identity or responsibility within the universe? The ability to breathe in space would fundamentally alter our relationship with other celestial bodies. Planets and moons could become more like second homes, no longer barriers, but extensions of human habitat. But modifying our biology to thrive outside Earth's environment might also risk unforeseen consequences, like disrupting delicate ecosystems within our own bodies or creating new vulnerabilities. The philosophical implications, what it means to be truly human, would echo as loudly as the scientific marvels. From a practical standpoint, the long-term implications are staggering. Colonizing distant worlds would become less about building airtight habitats and more about creating resilient humans inherently equipped for the extraterrestrial environment. Living on Mars or floating in the vacuum of lunar craters could soon be a question of biology aligning perfectly with technological advancements. However, such profound changes could also provoke debates about bioethics, consent, and the definition of human evolution. Would future generations carry genetic modifications that allow them to breathe space effortlessly, or would they rely on bioengineering enhancements? Either way, the boundaries of human life and our relationship to the universe would shift dramatically, opening doors to cosmic exploration that are currently limited by our fragile terrestrial origins. As we wrap up this journey into the realm of what it might be like if humans could breathe in space, it's fascinating to imagine the myriad ways our biology might adapt, perhaps evolving to filter cosmic radiation or to process the vacuum environments around us. The idea sparks both wonder and curiosity, reminding us how intertwined life and the universe truly are. If we could harness or understand these potential adaptations, it might revolutionize not just space exploration but our understanding of ourselves and our future among the stars. But it also raises profound ethical questions. Should we modify ourselves in such ways? What does it mean to preserve our humanity while pushing the boundaries of possibility? These are conversations worth having as technology advances and our reach extends further into the cosmos. Feel the weight of that imagination settling in. What would you do if breathing in space were a reality? Imagine the freedom, the boundless horizons, the new frontiers awaiting our discovery. If you're as captivated as First am, be sure to stay tuned for more deep dives into the science, ethics, and dreams of our future in space. The universe isn't just out there, it's coming closer, one revelation at a time.